Manx Radio Sport.
Well, it's just gone 5:30 on a Friday evening. Good evening, welcome along to the Friday Sport Preview. Simon Quine with you through until 6:30 this evening. Sitting in for Rob Pritchard this week. We'll be joined by Tony Mepham to look at football. Dave Christian joining us after 6 o'clock for one game of rugby this weekend, and Ben Cunningham as well will be here talking about hockey. Some rearranged fixtures in the league in hockey, along with cup, plate and bowl action all coming up tomorrow. And of course, don't forget the programme available for you to listen to on demand at manxradio.com as a podcast very shortly after broadcast this evening. So it's that time of the week again, and a little bit of a different picture to what we had last week, Tony, with the weather. We were bracing ourselves for Storm Bert this time last week, and it did make an impact on the sporting fixtures, particularly football and hockey. I know rugby was affected with travel disruption as well, but before we get into this week's fixtures, how are the pitches looking around the island? It's been another fairly wet week in terms of the weather.
Yeah, it has, and I've just driven in now from Kirkmichael, and it's pretty rough, to be honest with you, Simon. So I think we're going to have a few games off tomorrow, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a few groundsmen. Certainly Alan Lemaire probably be one of them, and there'll be a few around there as well who'll be out with the head torches on, trying to get rid of this water, because it's pretty heavy out there. Last week we had no choice. We stayed with the clubs to make the decision, and everyone sort of called the games off, but the bowl, obviously, 3G, and Castletown, who's one of the best drainage pitches on the island, and we managed to get 2 games on. But I'm pretty certain a bit of frustration setting in, because we've had a great start to the season, haven't we, with hardly any games at all to rearrange. 2 up until last Saturday's lunchtime, but now we've got a few in, but it's not panic stations. But certainly the clubs just want to get some football going with the festive sort of period coming up, and a few weekends with no games.
And have you had a look at the schedule? I think you said there were 2 games so far we'd lost this season before last week, and that's going to be into the 20s, I'd imagine, now after last week. Have you had a chance to look at that schedule and what's going to happen with those games?
Yeah, we'll put them in as quick as we can. We'll have a better picture tomorrow night, Simon, because you're doing the programme. We've got the ECAP FA Cup preliminary round draw live on the radio at 5:15, so we'll do that. And then there'll be some sort of games that we might be able to rearrange, but it's not panic. When the flood was on a few years back and we had like 200 at the end of January, it's nothing like that. So it's just take it easy. But we've got league programme, obviously, this week. We've got the semi-finals, which is so important for the Plum Properties Railway Cup next Saturday. And then the week after that, we've got a league programme. And then on the 21st, I think it is, no fixtures. We allow the men to go shopping just that one day. And then we've got another league programme back on the 28th. And then on the 4th of January, we've got the ECAP FA Cup to play. So, yeah, it's full on. There's a lot of games playing. There'll be a lot of players coming back from university now, so that makes them stronger. But certainly the pitches at the moment, right the way across the board, the whole island, are struggling a little bit, and let's just hope the weather's kind to us tonight and it's not as heavy as forecast.
Okay, and obviously, as we know at the moment, as things stand, everything is on, and we'll await that update from the FA tomorrow morning. Stay tuned, of course, to Manx Radio. We'll bring you an update on that as and when we get any news throughout the morning tomorrow. Let's start off then in Canada Life Men's Premier League, and first game I've got on the fixture sheet here is 5th against 6th, Foxdale taking on St Mary's. Yeah, it is, and last week on commentary, because I watched St Mary's have a thumping victory against Union Mills, absolutely fantastic, and fair play to Mark Wolfenden, and I know him, I'm a friend of his, so I can say this. Whoever's sort of trained him to get in the shape that he is, fair play to you, because that was a new Mark Wolfenden I saw, and that was the one I saw sort of 20 years ago, and he's a tremendous footballer, but as age creeps up, fitness goes, but last week he looked super fit, and great performance by him. Foxdale, as we know, Lee Gale's gone on his travels, so the star man is gone, but there's still enough quality in that forward line to cause St Mary's problems. But I just thought right the way through the spine for St Mary's 7 days ago, it was, Carl Clark at the back reads it so well. Defensively, they look pretty solid. You've got Frank Jones in midfield, and then just all around, they look really good. And when you could possibly have Dan Hatsley in that team as well, it's a super team. And I did say last week that I just feel St Mary's can play a big part
on who's going to win this league this year, because I think they're at their strongest at the moment. So teams, be careful. But Foxdale's pitch, it's a tight little pitch, might just go towards them, but I just can't see it, and that's why I go for St Mary's to get the points.
We talked last week in the classified programme as well about that game you'd been at, and St Mary's particularly strong in the second half. Now, you said that might have been how Mills set up in the first half, but it might have been how Mills set up in the second half, able to contain them a little bit better, but they really, out the blocks in the first half, weren't they? They
were absolutely brilliant, and, goals early, and it was the style of goal. It was just the way down the wing, get the ball crossed in, and Mark Wolfenden was there to finish it off. So that's what impressed me most. But, Foxdale, I know Stephen Bettridge won't be playing because he's got an ACL problem with his knee. But I just feel that, St Mary's now have gained so much confidence from that game that they could really challenge. And when you think of it, they only just missed out on the Railway Cup semi-final draw. So it's all to play for. And with the FA Cup coming up, we've got the Hospital Cup and a big part in the league. I'm not saying they won't win the league, but it's a big ask with the teams around them. But last week was impressive by St Mary's.
Okay, moving on to Union Mills against Moran. Moran obviously got their first win of the season just a few weeks ago. They'll be looking to add to that as they take on Union Mills.
Yeah, they will, and I think certainly Moran have picked up a little bit. David Brewer will be happy with the way the team has gone, but the big problem for them is scoring goals in the first sort of 8 or 9 games. So if they can get that right, and the players are near enough there, Simon, from last year, so I just don't understand why they're in the position that they are, but hopefully they can get that right. But Union Mills, what does Ryan Kelly say to his team? Excuse me, after last week, he's just got to say, let's forget that one, boys. It was a bad day in the office. Let's see if we can push on and try and take 3 valuable points away from Moran. Because Union Mills as well, when you look at it up until a couple of games ago, the season was going really well for them. But since then, a heavy defeat last week will have knocked them for 6. And, Jordan Crawley's in there. He's good. Tyler Hughes is in there. When you look defensively, Nathan Yates, you've got Owen Quayle. They're missing Luke Booth. We know that. But, Boothie's playing so well for FC Isle of Man. I don't see them getting him back for quite a while, to be honest with you. So Ryan's just got to crack on with that. But midfield, they work hard. And against Moran, I think they've got enough. But again, that pitch will be a little bit sticky at Gary Moore. And hopefully it won't spoil the game if it does go ahead.
Like you say, strong start to the season for Union Mills and a heavy defeat last week. And, you end up with a couple of defeats like that and you do start to get sucked in at the bottom end, don't you? You
do, but Union Mills won't get sucked in because I think the squad is too good. Mm-hmm. They've got one of the best goalkeepers, I think, playing for them. I know Mason missed a couple. I think he was suspended. But Mason Prince has been good, and Will Miller adds to the team as well. And, when you look at one or two of the other boys, Union Mills are in a good place. I think the start of the season, probably they looked at it and thought, we can do this. But I think now reality's set in and they're going to have to play super well to stay in touch with that top 3, top 4. And when you look at Peel, you've got St Mary's, Corinthians, Laxey in there as well, Foxdale. It's a tough one to try and get into those 6.
Okay. Corinthians take on St John's tomorrow.
Yeah, watch this game. Second game of the season it was in September, and it was a really cracking game. Both teams have got flair. They push well. Both forward lines are good. When you look at certainly St John's, Callum Taggart's having a great season. Unfortunately, Dean Leese's strike partner's not available because he's gone travelling. I think Sam Ingham's still suspended, so that doesn't help things at the back. Goalkeeping wise, they've been to-ing and fro-ing who's going to be in, so we'll wait and hear from that. But I think Sam Brown will go into this quite confident, the manager of St John's, and with people like Andrew Chadwick playing really well. You've got Joey Savage in there as well, Ray Lovell. They're good. But Corinthians, they've just got to keep going with the team that they've got. They're so young, Simon. Some of them haven't even started shaving yet. 16, 17. And when I look right the way through that team, going from Matthew Quirk as the number 1, he's strong, and defensively they look to organise. Darren Kane and Stewie Smith lead, and then when you got Bevan Colley in there, and to me Noah Valls has been a fantastic signing for them. But midfield, Josh Kane, Nathan Little's been absolutely superb, and Josh Ridings. It's a good team, and I just think Corinthians will edge it, but it's going to be a difficult game for them. They've just got to stay patient to break St John's down, and St John's can come back at them.
Okay, Peel take on Ramsey tomorrow.
Yeah, Peel have just got to keep chipping away, haven't they? Because they've got good team. I know you're a Peel boy, so you'll have your red and whites on tomorrow. But against Ramsey, I think Ramsey's poor start, they've sort of got that sorted now, and I think fair play to Andy Perry and Anthony Cooper for working with the players. It does help when you've got your best scorer back in after injury, and that's Dylan Pickles. But there's other good players in there. Dominic Parrish is in there as well, and Alfie Scott is one that caught my eye a couple of years ago, and he's a good player. And just right the way through, I think Ramsey have just got to keep going and have a go at Peel, because if there is a problem for Peel, it's defensively. I just don't feel they've got that right, even though if Scott Horn's on the left hand side and you've got Izzy Dunn on that right hand side going forward, lethal. Thomas Brown is absolutely lethal, and he's in such good form. And, to me, to try and deal with Thomas, you've just got to try and have someone to man-mark him, but he's difficult because he's so quick. But then have your second centre-back ready to get in there if he beats him. He's very, very difficult to deal with. And when I look at other people in there as well, Matthew Woods, really good, and other ones, it's a really good side, and that's why Peel are in the place that they are, and I think Peel will take the victory.
I think that's what you've touched on there with Peel and the other teams up there in the top four. It's about keeping pace at the moment, isn't it? And just keeping those points on the board, because one slip up is an opening for somebody else.
And the one, we'll come to them in a minute. The one that I am looking at the moment is Ayr United. Ayr United have started conceding goals and fallen behind by a good gap. 3-0 down twice, I think it was, and they pulled it back 4-3 and they pulled it back 3-3. So there's a problem there. It's all right scoring goals, but you've got to try and defend. And that's something that sort of Peel know at the moment. They haven't got, it's not necessarily the quality, they haven't got it gelling together at the back. But, certainly Peel at the moment and Ayr United are the two pace setters in the Canada Life Premier League. And
as well involved in the mix up there are Laxey, who travelled to St George's.
Yeah, and St George's, it's a good pitch there, so this game should be on. Laxey will want a good performance because they've got a semi-final in the Plum Properties Railway Cup the following week against Ayr United at Ayr. Johnny Palmer's team, I think, are pretty well full fit. I think, Joe Walters will be one in there. You've got Ethan Hawley as well. Tom Cowan and Tom Kenny, good at the back. Goalkeeper, they seem to have been able to cover for the loss of Glenn. So it's looking okay, but St George's, again, it's just whatever team they get out. They haven't got a combination team to dip into for players. So they do rely heavily on people like Kieran McNulty and Chris Bass and Sean Quay and Johnny Myers. Still a vast experience to try and bring the others together. Going to be a tough game for Geordies. I'm going to go with Laxey for a victory.
Okay, and you've just mentioned Ayr as well. They do have this habit at the moment of conceding heavily in games. They've got Onken this week.
Yeah, it's a bizarre one to work on, that one, because when you look at Jamie Callister, he reads the game so well. He's the Ireland centre-back. He's solid for Ayr United, but just it doesn't seem to be sort of coming together as a package like the force defenders and the goalkeeper. So against Onken, they've certainly got players there that can take them apart, and Andy Asperage is one of them. And when you look at the other players around, they can cause problems. But I think Tom Creer got a red card recently, so he's probably going to miss out on that one. But I think, certainly Onken will have a go. They know no fear because they're young players. Ayr United, I don't know what the problem is at the back. They've got to try and sort that one out. Nick Hurt's back from holiday, so hopefully he can sort that one out. But Ayr United take the 3 points in this.
Okay, move on to Ardnall Druggan Division 2, and a couple of games in the top 6 here that could have an impact coming the end of the season. Important 3 points in a few of these games, and we start off with Castletown against Colby in a Southern derby. Yeah, and this is the one that Manx Radio have sent me to cover tomorrow, and it's a big game for it because Castletown and Colby would love to get promoted. It's going to be hard for them, but they'd love to get in the Paul Henry Gold Cup at the end of the season. So you've got to take the points away from the teams around you. We had, Colby, Harry's up last week, Colby's manager, and he's happy with the way things are going. Gary Sansbury at Castletown seems to have steadied the ship, so they're going okay. Good stadium, good pitch. It's a tough one, this one. Alex Crawley played good. We'll wait and see what the rest of the team is like. Nathan Cardy, if he plays good for them. But I just feel at the moment Colby might just have the edge on this, and I'm going to go for Colby to take the victory. Okay, and another game that could have a big impact at the top of Ardnern Druggan Division 2, Michael against Ramsey Youth Centre.
Yeah, and it is. And, Michael, at the moment, we're just sort of looking at them and seeing how they're able to regroup because they lost so many players, first-team players. So at the moment, they're holding their own, but they've conceded a lot of goals. Ramsey Youth Centre have done really well, I think. They're back in it. They're sort of mixing it now with the big boys. And I know they're close to each other. It's probably the closest they'll get with these two sides, and I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre to take the win.
Just mentioning there, we had this appeal out on behalf of Michael. We had it out. I think you mentioned it on the programme. We ran it as a news story as well about appealing for players a few weeks ago. Is that something they've had a response to? Do you know that have they picked up some new players? I
think they have. They've registered some. They lost a lot of quality. Liam Kane won, which was a big hit for them. But Michael are a great club, and they work hard. And whatever blip they've had that's caused this mass exodus, they've regrouped and they've got to go for it. Were they going to get promoted this year? I think they had a great opportunity. They had a good start, but suddenly the players left them. So it's great character, and I wish them well, and they'll get it right. There's no doubt about it because they've got too much there. They've got clubhouse, good pitch, good crack. Michael Corlett there and everyone else will work hard for that club, and I think Michael will be able to rebuild and get back up there.
Okay, currently sitting second in Division 2, Braddon welcome Douglas and District. Yeah,
you have a look where D&D, Simon, are at the bottom of the league. It's only going to go one way, this one. And, when you look at Braddon, they've been fortunate. They've signed Liam Kane, who's won the Silver Boot 2 years on the bounce now. So he'll be right in there, 4 goals in his last game. When you look at Douglas and District are another great club that just keep chipping away, but it's hard when you come up against the big guns, and Braddon are one of those. They want to bounce back. They were relegated last season. This year they want to go back up there, and I just think with Dan Kinraid on that left-hand side, Joe Burrows as well is in there, Mark O'Neill, if he plays just right the way through, Braddon look really strong, and I think Will Smith knows that, the manager, that he's got a good team and they need a push, and I think they will push with another 3 points tomorrow.
Okay, and two fairly finely balanced teams here, 9th and 8th in the table at the moment. Malou against Douglas Royal.
Yeah, I think Douglas Royal again. They've gained some new players back in there, so that makes them stronger. Malou, I've got 2 or 3 absolute superstars who can mix it anywhere and score plenty of goals. And we mention them every week, and it's remiss of us not to do it this week. Is Kieran Kripner, because he's scoring for fun, and I just think if he can hold it together defensively, they can stay solid, then Malou could win this one against Douglas Royal. I just think Douglas Royal still haven't got what I will call a prominent goal scorer, but people like Sam Greasley and that who've signed for them, Jordan Cowan as well. He's a really good player, can score goals, and he might be able to help that cause. But let's go with Malou at the moment.
Okay, and final one in Division 2, top of the table, Old Boys welcome Governors Athletic.
Yeah, Old Boys are absolutely flying, and credit to them because we were concerned at the FA a couple of years ago where Old Boys were going to go because, a lot of older players in there, 35, 36, still 2 or 3 in there. King Wardy still there. But the rest of it is very neutral and some really good players coming through. And you can see with Old Boys under 18s that they've got a lot of youth coming through. They did well in the 7-a-side on Wednesday where they got through to semi-final but unfortunately got beat. But there's some good players coming through, and I just think Governors are going to find it too strong. There's some experienced players in there, but when you've got whippersnappers coming past you and all that, it's hard to deal with. But then again, if you've got someone who's really tall and strong against a young, slimmer lad, then they might just be able to stop them from sort of breaking them down, getting the goals. But I just don't think Old Boys will lose this.
Okay, we'll move on to Combi. We'll just do results on this. And there's a couple of other things we want to talk about. We've got here from Paul Jones as well. So Canada Life Combi 1, St Mary's Foxdale is the early kick-off at 1:45.
Yeah, 1:45 on this one. I'm going to go for St Mary's to win this one. I think they've got some really good players in there, Jamie Skillen being one of them.
Okay, Moran against Union Mills.
I'm going to go for Union Mills to win that.
St John's against Corinthians.
It should be close. St John's have slipped a little bit lately, but Corinthians have got a strong team. I'm going to go for Corinthians just to sneak it by the odd goal.
Okay, and Ramsey against Peel.
Going to go for Ramsey. They're charging at the top of the table.
And last one in Combi 1 is Onken against Ayr.
This is going to be close because Onken top. When you look at Ayr, they're just below them. I'm going to go for Onken to win. I have to.
Okay, Ardnern Druggan Combi 2, Colby against Castletown.
Colby top of the table. I'm going to go for Colby to win that.
Ramsey Youth Centre against Michael.
I'll go for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys.
Douglas and District against Braddon.
I'll go for Braddon to win.
Pulrose against Jims.
Pulrose to take victory there.
And the final one, Governors Athletic against All Boys.
All Boys up at the top of the table. All Boys take the 3 points.
Okay, Tony, one other thing we wanted to mention, we touched on this in Classifieds last week, is the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup. It's the first leg of the new format of that on Sunday. It's at the Bowl at 2:45, but between Corinthians and Peel, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. Let's have a chat about the new format first, shall we, so everyone knows what I'm talking about.
No problem. What it is basically we've had to sit back or step back, I should say, and revisit the women's programme. We got all the clubs in. Simon Elson, who was the women's development officer, he's not now. He's the men's one now. But we all sat down as a group to say, where can we improve this? And it's a chance that we're taking. The clubs agreed to it. So basically, we need to get rid of the 2 top teams to give the others a chance in something. So they've got their own 7-a-side, and I know Peel and Corinthians are playing in it, in the 7-a-side, but no Island players can play in that competition. Mm-hmm. So the 11-a-side, it's going to be just 2 games, so it's like a 2-legged final. The first one is this Sunday, and it's Corinthians against Peel. So if you want to see the standard women's football, this is the game to go and watch. It's at the Bowl because it's first leg of the final. And then we'll play the second leg. We're working with the clubs now what to do with that one because we're mindful of staff parties on the 15th, so it might be after New Year. But it'll just go down as an aggregate score. So after 90 minutes of the second game, if it's still all square, we go into extra time and sort of penalties. That's how it's going to work. But 2 strong teams, they're both equal. You can't really pick a favourite at the moment. It's going to be on the day. But new format. We'll give it a bash and then we'll look at it all again afterwards when it's all finished and see if it's worked.
Okay. All right, Tony, thank you very much for that game. And the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup 2:45 kick-off at the Bowl for the first leg between Corinthians and Peel. Just got a few seconds left, Tony, but we'll just remind people again, the draw for the ECAP FA Cup tomorrow evening on Saturday Sport Classified between 5 and 6. Yeah,
it is. ECAP are coming up to do the draw, so it's not international this time. I know we've done it from London before, but I'm glad to say Carl's coming up to do it. And looking forward to that one. And it's just nice to do it. We do it a month before the competition. So the banter and that over Christmas period can go. But the only thing is that straight after Christmas, well, it's the 4th of January is the prelim round. Everyone's had a few beers and had too much to eat, and it can be a bit of carnage, really. But it's in our rules. It has to be played the first Saturday of January, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, thanks, Tony. Very quickly before we go to the 6 o'clock news, FC Isle of Man face the prospect of 8 games unbeaten as they prepare for their latest match in the North West Counties Football League. The Ravens face AFC Liverpool at the Marine Travel Arena on Saturday with kick-off scheduled for 12 p.m. Paul Jones's side drew with Pilkington in their most recent game, and this weekend they face a side that have only beaten once in 6 attempts. We spoke to Jones ahead of the game in Crosby.
I expect us to be a lot tighter at our end of the pitch on Saturday in a game that traditionally has a lot of goals in it, but hopefully not into our goal this weekend. And we're scoring, creating lots of chances at the moment. So we need to keep doing that and just be a little bit more clinical at times, and we'll be okay. But we know we've got a good player group, but that doesn't mean we're guaranteed to win games at this level. And we can see from the last couple of weeks, if we switch off for a moment against any team in this league, then we can make our life harder than it needs to be.
Talking about the game then this weekend, AFC Liverpool sit 11th in the league. Yourselves have yet to win away to AFC Liverpool in four games. How are you approaching this game this weekend to make sure that you keep building on the momentum that you've been able to gather over the last few weeks?
Yeah, this week we've had a good week in training, just kind of identifying ways that we can improve as a group, especially with the ball. I think we're doing quite well at the moment, but there's loads of opportunities to develop and improve. Very hopefully we'll see some of that against AFC Liverpool. And if we stand still, and everybody else keeps making progress, then we won't be in 5th place at the end of the season. So we have to keep finding ways to improve. As I say, like in possession especially, I hope we don't need to go back to work on out of possession stuff. Like how we play is pretty nailed on, and it's just up to the players to deliver that consistently, and then we shouldn't be conceding too many goals. Yeah, it's just a case of remembering what we're good at and making sure that we stay properly switched on. We have a plan before every game. We have information about what the opposition are likely to do, and I don't know whether you saw, man, after the game on Saturday, we gave that information to the players, and they didn't use it to stop the first goal from happening. And if we just switched on to that and we all knew it was coming, we just didn't execute what we should have done in the moment. So yeah, it's just a case of kind of like remembering what we need to do, how we need to get the best out of each other, and then holding each other accountable to delivering that for 95 minutes every Saturday. And if we do that, we'll give AFC Liverpool a really good test. You know, they've dropped off a little bit after a very, very good first half in the beginning of the season. And I'm sure they'll be looking to try and get their playoff ambitions back on track on Saturday. So, you know, definitely another one we can't take for granted.
Yeah, they're a side that scored 52 goals in the league this year so far. And, you know, I'll touch on what you said at the weekend. You know, I did find that quite interesting how you actually spoke about that in an interview. Not many times you hear a manager mention the stuff that you work on about another team. What specifically do you see in AFC Liverpool that you'll need your players to be switched on for to make sure that they can nullify AFC Liverpool and get at them in the best way possible?
They're good footballers. You know, they've got a lot of quality in the front 6 or 7 to 6 positions, really. You know, they've got a centre forward who's scoring quite a lot of goals. They've got wide players who can create problems. Their central 3 are very good in possession and tidy footballers. You know, so if you're not at it and you're not concentrating, then the way they move the ball and the way they run off the ball could cause problems. You know, and that's kind of how AFC have played for a little while. And you know, the manager they've got at the moment is certainly what it seems is looking for them to keep doing that. So they've got very clear attacking threats, which is why they've scored so many goals. But you'll also see in their goals against, you know, they do concede a few as well. So we've just got to identify how we can best take advantage of that and put them under significant pressure so their forward players are spending more time chasing the ball rather than playing with it. So yeah, that's the challenge on Saturday really is nullify their front 6 and then find the spaces to cause them some big problems ourselves.
Paul Jones there with the preview of FC Isle of Man as they travel to AFC Liverpool tomorrow. That game kicking off at 12 o'clock at the Marine Travel Arena. We'll bring you updates throughout the afternoon. 6.5 minutes after 6 o'clock, then welcome to the second part of the Friday Sport Preview. Simon Kwame through until 6:30, talking rugby and hockey between now and 6:30 this evening. And we will start off with Dave Christian, who's here to talk about rugby. Now, Dave, we didn't catch up last Saturday on Classifieds because, well, quite frankly, there was nothing for you to talk about last Saturday on Classifieds. Stormbird did bring its troubles for rugby as well. Not just conditions, but obviously travel came into this too, didn't it?
Yeah, indeed, you're right, Simon. Travel was the main cause of any problems. We didn't have any hint of pitch being unfit anywhere. Certainly that was reported back to me, but the first team that was called off was Vagabonds Ladies. They were due to catch the red eye to Manchester on Saturday morning. That was pulled late on Friday, so that was good early news for them. Then early Saturday morning, Eccles, I think they were on the return from that red eye. They couldn't make it to play Douglas. That game, very fortunately for everybody concerned, will now take place on the 21st of December, which I'm sure is a popular decision. Then Ramsey had obviously travelled to the airport in preparation for their friendly against Wigan. That got to a stage where the flight left at 12:39, but left insufficient time to get away, play the game and get everybody back, and in fact play the game in daylight for that matter. And Southern Nomads were also due to travel to play Aldershot in their Cheshire Bowl. That game knocked on the head quite early as well. I think Nomads were flying on the Liverpool EasyJet, and that was delayed till 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. So, the kibosh was very firmly put on everybody. So, I haven't heard yet whether Ramsey had an under-14 side playing Wirral on Sunday morning. I haven't heard whether or not that went ahead yet. I've been pressing the coaches trying to find out the result. But again, Sunday, the things had calmed down a little bit. Yeah. But I think they were probably travelling by boat, and I know the boats were a little bit out of kilter. So, travel was the disaster last weekend. And if that storm had come through 24 hours earlier or 24 hours later, it probably wouldn't have been a factor. But it was just impeccable timing is the best way to describe it.
So a little bit of work to do on the fixtures there. It sounds like most of those things have already been penciled back in, tentatively at least.
The Douglas Eccles game is definitely penciled in. It's showing on englandrugby.com as 21st of December. Ramsey friendly against Wigan, that won't take place. It was only a friendly fixture. I haven't heard what Southern Nomads and Aldershot are doing yet. They may the two sides may agree to not play the fixture and share the spoils. I think that will work for both, because then they both qualify for the Cheshire Bowl final. But then that leads into rule objections from the other teams involved. So I don't know about that one. Ramsey's game was against Wallasey, and Wallasey conceded the game on the Monday night before the fixture. So that game's done and dusted. Ramsey will finish second in the Cheshire Vars qualifying group, which means they'll play in the final against New Brighton. And we're just waiting a date for that one from Cheshire. Probably somewhere closer to the end of the season than now. They were due to play the final midweek under floodlights. Obviously, that's, as the FC Isle of Man lads will all know, midweek fixtures aren't necessarily a good thing. You've got 2 days off work minimum, and the travel overnighting in a hotel one way or the other. Either that or the 2:15 from Heysham home. And whatever it is, it's not ideal. So Cheshire had indicated that if an Isle of Man side gets to a Cheshire final, they'll try and get the game organised with a bit more of a user-friendly time. So hopefully we get a Saturday fixture for that one. And if it is a Saturday fixture, it's somewhere on Merseyside later on in the season. The Sea Cats back up and running, so there's an opportunity for supporters to travel as well. So it's all a good thing. The Vagabonds ladies game, haven't heard on that one yet. They tend to be a little bit slower to refit their fixtures in. Vagabonds ladies like to play on the Saturday, and Saturday is men's day in rugby circles in the United Kingdom, so the pitches are all generally set up for men's rugby, so it takes a little bit longer to try and wheedle it in, and of course find space on boats and aeroplanes. So it's a little bit more complicated, but as soon as we know anything, obviously we'll get it out.
Okay, and we move on to this week then, David. Actually, another quiet week for you this week. Just the one game in Regional 2, North West. Douglas against Crewe and Nantwich at Portachee. Just a slight note for anyone who's looking at going down to this, it is a 1:15 kickoff, is it not 1 o'clock?
Yeah, it was originally scheduled for 1 o'clock, and Douglas have confirmed it's been pushed back 15 minutes. I don't know the reason, but it's only 15 minutes, so it's neither here nor there, really. Interesting fixture. Obviously, we'll be covering it for Saturday Live, as there's nothing else on. But Douglas ahead of Crewe and Nantwich in the Regional 2 Northwest table. But they've won the same number of fixtures. Douglas have picked up quite a few bonus points, and that's the reason they're ahead. Earlier in the week, it looked like Douglas will be missing perhaps three of the most influential players, Simon Hodgenott, Liam Kirkpatrick and Sam McCord. But team news is out. It's hot off the press at 5 to 6 tonight, and all three are available and selected. So they're probably the three most influential players on the park for Douglas, coupled with Bryn Snellgrove at 10. So Douglas look to be pretty much at full strength, and they'll want to take maximum points for this one. Douglas on a roll. They've won their last three home games, and Crewe and Nantwich are on a roll as well. They've lost their last three fixtures. So it looks like everything's lining up for a Douglas win, but we can't be too sure, and of course we'll be there to cover that for Saturday Live. Douglas might just be able to sneak a place up in the Regional 2 Northwest standings. Altrincham, Kersal are the nearest ones to them. They've got a fixture tomorrow. I think they're away from home against Vale of Loon. Those two are quite tight in the middle of the table, and a Vale of Loon win would see Douglas climb above Altrincham, Kersal, provided, of course, that they beat Crewe and Nantwich. But that's all for tomorrow. We'll be there to cover that, like I said, for Saturday Live. Kick-off 1:15. We'll have updates throughout the afternoon.
Okay, David, and presumably we're heading into that festive period now. We're looking at a few quieter weekends. Is that sort of what the programme's going to be like for the next few weeks?
Not necessarily. Vagabonds men don't have a game this weekend. They will do next weekend, I think, and the weekend afterwards, so both the 7th and the 14th. Douglas have an away fixture next week and then back-to-back homes, culminating with Eccles on the 21st of December. There's nothing domestically unless there's a friendly fixture arranged between Ramsey, Southern Nomads, Western Vikings, or potentially Vagabonds who don't play on the 14th. I've got an inquisitive eye on that weekend because I'm Ramsey's fixture secretary, and that's a possibility for a friendly game between Ramsey and Vagabonds. Both sides probably need a little bit more game time. Ramsey definitely do. Vagabonds have suffered a little bit in their league with two sides pulling out. Blackpool withdrew before the season started, and Old Bedians pulled out about 10 days ago. And that's left them with just 2 fixtures short in the initial part of their season. And a 14th of December game might be ideal for both sides, but that's for negotiation during this week. We'll see what happens. Vagabonds ladies are clear now till after Christmas. And unless Southern Nomads get a rearranged game with Aldershot on the cards, I think that's it for the domestic side as well. So a few league matches to tidy up for the bigger sides. But in a way, it'll be a little bit quieter and maybe just 1 or 2 fixtures each weekend.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. And, of course, full coverage of that Regional 2 North-West game between Douglas and Crewe and Nantwich. 11:15 kickoff on Saturday, live tomorrow throughout the afternoon with Paul Moran.
Manx Radio Sport.
Just approaching 18 minutes after 6 o'clock on your Friday evening. It's the Friday Sport Preview. Simon Kwan with you for another 12 minutes through until 6:30. Chris Kinley then in with Greatest Hits, playing you the best music of the last 24 and a bit years, looking at everything from the noughties onwards on Greatest Hits this evening. And it's time to talk hockey with Ben Cunningham. Now, I've mentioned it to everybody else, Ben, so it would only seem fair to bring this up with you. Weather did not play ball last week with the hockey fixtures. A lot of disruption again, some extra fixtures to fit in this week, which we'll come to in a minute. But are the MHA there now? Do we kind of feel like they've fitted in what they need to from last week? Because I know when we were talking on classifieds, there was still a little bit of uncertainty about what was going to happen with some of these games.
Yeah, pretty much we've got everything now sorted. There's going to be a couple of games this weekend, and then there's going to be a couple played midweek next week. Of course, we've got teams that are involved in the Cup Plate and Bowl final, which we'll come to shortly. Obviously, they've got to play games as well, so obviously they can't play this weekend. So we're near enough there. There's a few games that are still just to be arranged, but we're pretty much there. Good,
okay. Let's move on to the fixtures in hand for tomorrow. Then you've got a busy day at the NSC. It's finals day. We'll start off with the mixed cup final that gets underway at 11:05 between Castletown Southerners and Valkyries C.
That's the mixed plate, that one.
It is. It is. I will cross that out on my sheet so I don't do that.
I'll let you
again.
off, Simon. Yeah, the mixed plate, Castletown Southerners against Valkyries C. I reckon that's going to be a good game. Of course, Southerners took the Division 1 title late on in the remainder of the league fixtures, but then Valkyries went on a really good run towards the end of the season. Of course, Castletown Southerners will want to get the double, the league and the plate, but I think Valkyries could cause a few problems here for Southerners, and I'm going to say Southerners win, but I wouldn't be surprised if potentially Valkyries near enough take them to penalty flicks.
Okay, and I'm going to trust then, if that said cup on my paperwork, it was the plate, I'm going to trust this one's the cup at 1 o'clock between Vikings A and Backers A at the NSC.
Yes, that's the cup game, so that's going to be a big one. Of course, this is the third meeting of these two sides, the second time in 2 weeks that they've met. Of course, Backers have claimed both victories, so Backers will definitely be favourites for it. However, though, of course, Vikings were their nearest contenders in the league, but Backers finished the season unbeaten, and you'd have to favour them for the cup title. Of course, they got it last year, so they'll want to keep their hands on it this year.
And that was a big game last week. There was one that was really important to get underway, really, wasn't it? In the weather conditions last week was the game that clinched title for Backers.
Yeah, it was great that it went ahead. And I mean, when the news came out that it was going ahead, I think everybody was that bored of sat indoors and twiddling their thumbs. They all got down to the NSC because there was a massive crowd that went down to watch the game. I think roughly I counted at least 35, 40 people down there. All from different clubs, but it was great to see such a good atmosphere, even though the weather wasn't brilliant.
I was going to say, this particularly given the conditions, which we've talked about an awful lot, but it's great to see people going out and supporting, local sport and the teams in that.
Absolutely, and like I say, this weekend, please do get on down to the NSC because it's going to be a great atmosphere, and I have heard rumours there might be a coffee truck down there.
Oh, there you go. So even if it is a bit chilly, and it's not supposed to be chilly tomorrow, but if it is, keep you warm.
Yeah.
Final game at the NSC. It's a 3 o'clock. Gets underway. Harlequins B against Valkyries D in the mixed bowl final.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I mean, Harlequins, they took the Division 2 title unbeaten. I mean, they've still got a game to play to claim that unbeaten run in the Division 2, but you would favour them. I mean, if I can remember roughly off the top of my head, I think they've only conceded 5 goals maybe in that division. However, though, for Valkyries D, unfortunately, they were relegated from this division. League wasn't brilliant for them, but then they've had a really good cup run, and in the semi-final they went all the way to penalty flicks against Bacchus Colts, and they won the penalty flick shootout. So it'll be interesting to see if Valkyries can maybe rustle a few feathers on Harlequins, but Harlequins really have been scoring lots of goals, and I mean, one name for me that stands out is Tom Hurd. He's been scoring numerous goals week in, week out. And it'll be interesting to see if he will be playing, because his fiancée is due to have a baby any day. So it'll be interesting to see if he's in the squad this weekend.
And you'll be there all morning and afternoon for coverage on Saturday Live of those 3 games. Just to recap, the mixed plate final getting away at 11:05, the mixed cup final at 1 o'clock, and the mixed bowl final at 3 o'clock. And you'll have updates with Paul Moran throughout the day.
Absolutely, and I'll update you in full time.
Okay, let's move on to these rearranged league fixtures then. These are spread out across the pitches across the island. Start off in the mixed Premier League at 11:05. Harlequins A take on Vikings B out in the west of the island at QE2.
Yeah, that'll be a really close game. Both teams will be really happy with how they've performed in the league. Harlequins know that if they can win this game, potentially they can finish 3rd in the league. As for Vikings B, they know that they can get a good, solid position in this game. I'm going to go for a Harlequins A win though on that one.
Okay, mixed Division 2, 2:05, Castletown Cushags against Ramsey Ravens at Ramsey.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one, I reckon. Cushags and Ramsey Ravens have both been pretty much even all season, and I think it might just go the way of Castletown on that one, so a Castletown win on that one.
And 2 games in mixed Division 3 that you've been able to rearrange. The first one at 25-1, Castletown Cosney against Vikings E. Both these games at QE2.
Yeah, and the 2 games that we're just going to talk about are massive, because this is going to decide who wins Division 3, which we missed out on last weekend. So, big game for Cosney against Vikings E, because if Cosney can win, they can potentially take the title on goal difference. However, if Vikings E win, then it could come down to what the other result happens in the next game we're going to talk about.
And that is at 2:05 between Bacchus D and Harlequins C.
Because Bacchus D are level on points with Cosney, but only behind on goal difference. But it's a massive, big goal difference between Cosney and Bacchus D. So it's going to be a tough task. Can Vikings get one over Cosney? Can Cosney take it on goal difference? Will Bacchus D take it? It's all to play for.
And that's a really interesting, because those games back to back, both at QE2, the Cosney team, I presume, will hang around because they'll want to see the result of that Bacchus D game, because it's gonna affect their standing, whatever happens, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if Vikings E win, I think Vikings E will probably want to hang about and just see if they could win it, because if Harlequins beat Bacchus and Vikings E beat Cosney, then Vikings E could win the league. There's numerous ways that this league could be won this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be a big showdown, and definitely I'm sure that them teams will hang about to see what happens.
In some ways, then, I suppose it's quite nice it's worked out this way, that those games are played back-to-back, same pitch, everything, because I'd imagine last week they spread out across the island. Were they different venues, those games?
They were at different venues, but at the same time.
Right.
So it was going to be one of them where people were going to be watching the results chat come and going, please. So, but yeah.
And the final game is the mixed under 15s. It's 25-4, and it's Valkyries against Bacchus again, this one at QE2.
Yeah, Valkyries under 15s have been looking really good, and Bacchus under 15s have as well. I think these are the top two sides in this league. I haven't really looked much at the under 15s league, but the under 15s league has really been entertaining just as much as we've just been talking about Division 3. All the teams are really showing their class, and a lot of the young players in these teams are all representing the island in the island squad. So it's great to see them playing so well in their respective clubs.
And just to mention as well, because I asked Dave about this, in terms of going forward over the next few weeks, what does the fixture list look like? Is this thing's winding down now? Are you on a bit of a break now for Christmas?
Yeah, I'm gonna be going into hibernation. No, I'm not gonna go into hibernation just yet. We might have a couple of fixtures that overrun into next weekend. But after that, we will be done for Christmas, and then we'll be back in New Year for men's and ladies' leagues.
And of course, don't go into hibernation because you're looking after full time in a couple of weeks as well, aren't you?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
That's all right. All right, Ben, thank you very much. Busy day for you at the NSC tomorrow, and back joining me with classified results from 5 o'clock on AM 1368 tomorrow. Just a reminder then, in terms of action tomorrow, going back to football, Tony Mepham is out and about at Castletown against Colby and Arden and Druggan at Division 2. We've got Dave Christian is at the Seoul game in rugby at Regional 2 at North West between Douglas and Crewe and Nantwich. That's a 1:15 kickoff. And Ben Cunningham for hockey down at the NSC for the finals day. Full updates on all of those with Paul Moran between 12 and 4 tomorrow here on Manx Radio. We mentioned as well, of course, the weather potentially may be causing some issues, particularly in football, where there may be some residual issues from last week in terms of pitches. We'll bring you updates on that as and when we get an update from the FA. FC Isle of Man are away. They are taking on AFC Liverpool at the Marine Travel Arena with a midday kickoff tomorrow, and they are facing the prospect of 8 games unbeaten if they can avoid defeat in that game as they continue their great form in the North West Counties Football League. More sport tomorrow from 12 with Paul Moran, and then tomorrow evening between 4 and 6 I'll be here with the full-time and Saturday Sport Classifieds on AM 1368 and Manx Radio DAB. And of course, don't forget, for the next 7 days or so, you can catch up on this. If you've missed any of the previews and you want to have a listen back to it, you can find that at manxradio.com. And I should mention once more, tomorrow evening between 5 and 6 we'll do the draw for the preliminary round of the ECAP FA Cup. Those fixtures will take place on the 4th of January, so make sure you're tuned in between 5 and 6 tomorrow as we will pick the names out of the hat and do that draw. Chris Kinley is up next with Greatest Hits through until 9 o'clock, and then it's Howard and Chris Kane with Jumping In between 9 and 10, and then from 10 o'clock tonight Nicola Holt is here with the 90s playlist, and I'll speak to you tomorrow afternoon.